Welcome back to Librarian Oasis. I'm Joshua, and today we're going to be looking at Educated by Tara Westover.
And I'm Eleanor. I'm really looking forward to unpacking this one with you.
Oh yeah, me too. And anyone joining us for the deep dive, if you haven't read Educated yet, I highly recommend grabbing a copy.
Absolutely.
But even if you haven't, we'll be sharing enough details to give you a good sense of Westover's journey.
For sure. So to set the stage, Educated opens with a prologue that just grabs you by the collar right from the start and really doesn't let go. Tara, at just 7 years old, is hiding in a field while her family believes she's gone to Arizona with her grandma.
Yeah, you get that feeling right away that something isn't quite right.
Right. And her father is preparing for this violent standoff with the government, fueled by his deep distrust of authority. And then her mother, in a completely unexpected move, decides to leave with Tara. It's this sudden, almost desperate escape.
Yeah, like a glimpse into the chaos that kind of defines Tara's early life.
Yeah, and it immediately raises questions about the nature of family, the power of belief systems, and what it means to grow up on the fringes of society.
Right. Then we jump into chapter 1, Choose the Good, which kind of plunges us right into Tara's unconventional childhood on Buck's Peak. And she and her siblings don't even have birth certificates. Homeschooling is practically non-existent, and their days are filled with dangerous work in their father's junkyard.
It's such a stark contrast to most childhood experiences.
Yeah.
One example that really struck me was Tara describing how she only scrubs the visible parts of her body for church because there simply isn't time for a full bath.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It paints such a vivid picture of their priorities and how their lives revolve around work and their father's strict religious beliefs.
Absolutely. And it highlights the isolation they experience. They're cut off from mainstream society, physically and ideologically.
Then in chapter 2, The Midwife, we're introduced to Tara's mother's fascinating journey into midwifery. She goes from being reluctant to becoming the only midwife for miles around.
It's a testament to her strength and resourcefulness, but it also reveals a deep distrust of conventional medicine. She relies heavily on herbal remedies, treating everything from high blood pressure to premature contractions with natural remedies.
Now, this reliance on alternative medicine is interesting because it becomes a source of conflict later in the book as Tara encounters kind of a different worldview.
Exactly. It raises questions about the limits of alternative medicine, particularly in life or death situations. It makes you think, how far would you go to adhere to your beliefs, even if it meant potentially risking your health or the health of your loved ones?
Then in chapter 3, Cream Shoes, we get a glimpse into the power of stories within the family. The story of Tara's mother longing for cream shoes becomes this symbol of her unfulfilled desires, a life she never had.
It's fascinating here is how these stories shape the family's identity and their perception of the world. They're constantly reinterpreting the past, crafting narratives that justify their choices and reinforce their isolation.
And chapter 4, Apache Women, marks Tara's first experience with formal schooling at the age of 9. And it's a complete culture shock.
She doesn't even know how to read, and she's immediately bullied and ostracized. It's a stark reminder of how crucial early socialization and education are, and how her isolated upbringing has left her unprepared for the outside world.
Right. Moving on to chapter 5, Honest Dirt. We see the family's distrust of the government and outsiders intensify. The incident at Ruby Ridge becomes this pivotal moment that shapes their entire worldview.
It's chilling to see how they interpret this event as proof that the government is out to get them. They start stockpiling weapons, creating head-for-the-hills bags, and living in a constant state of fear.
Right. It's like they've created this us versus them mentality where everyone outside their immediate circle is a potential enemy.
And this paranoia only escalates in Chapter 6, Shield and Buckler. Her father buys more weapons, including a bullet-making machine, and the atmosphere at home becomes even more oppressive.
You can feel the weight of this fear on Tara, who's constantly worrying about things like burying the bullet-making machine in case of a surprise attack. It really highlights the psychological impact of growing up in such an environment.
Then in Chapter 7, The Lord Will Provide, we see a shift in focus as Tara begins to grapple with her own identity.
She starts to yearn for something beyond the mountain, but she's also drawn to the beauty and the isolation of her surroundings. It's this push and pull between wanting to escape and feeling tethered to her family and their way of life.
This internal conflict is something many listeners can probably relate to, that feeling of wanting to break free from your past while also feeling a sense of loyalty and obligation.
In Chapter 8, Tiny Harlots, we see Tara's mother's midwifery practice grow, but it comes with increased risks. She faces dangerous complications and even legal repercussions as she continues to operate outside the bounds of conventional medicine.
One particularly tense scene involves a near-death experience for a mother giving birth, and Tara's mother almost being caught as an unlicensed midwife at a hospital.
These events raise important questions about the boundaries of personal beliefs and the ethical implications of choosing alternative medicine over established medical practices.
And it forces the reader to confront their own beliefs about healthcare and the balance between individual autonomy and the need for regulation.
Chapter 9, Perfect in His Generations, finally sees Tara getting a birth certificate at age 9. But there's a twist. It's based on a false date.
This detail reveals so much about the family's relationship with truth and authority. They're willing to bend the rules, even official documents, to fit their narrative.
It's a reminder that sometimes the stories we tell ourselves, even about basic facts like our birth dates, can be shaped by our beliefs and desires.
Chapter 10, Shield of Feathers, offers a unique perspective on birth as Tara attends her first delivery. But her experience isn't exactly what she expected. She finds the process long, tiring, and not at all glamorous. It's a dose of reality that challenges the romanticized view of childbirth.
And this chapter also kind of foreshadows Tara's evolving perspective.
Yeah, she's beginning to question the things she's always taken for granted.
Chapter 11, Instinct, reveals a darker side of Tara's mother's midwifery as a traumatic birth unfolds. She makes a risky decision driven by her fear of legal repercussions that could have had devastating consequences.
This incident really highlights the tension between her faith-based approach and the practical realities of medical emergencies. It makes you wonder about the limits of intuition and the importance of relying on evidence-based practices.
The power of stories resurfaces in Chapter 12, Fish Eyes, as we hear about Tara's mother's longing for acceptance during her childhood, which contrasts with her father's more pragmatic outlook on life.
This chapter really delves into the idea that everyone carries their own personal narrative shaped by their experiences and desires. And sometimes those narratives clash, creating conflict and tension within families.
Then in Chapter 13, Silence in the Churches, we see how the family's isolation extends to their social life. There's this almost comical anecdote about her mother's brother mistaking her father's family for being in a brawl when he first meets them.
It's a lighthearted moment, but reveals just how differently they operate compared to the rest of their community. Their social interactions are limited, and they seem to prefer it that way.
Chapter 14, My Feet No Longer Touch Earth, delves deeper into the complex dynamic between Tara's parents. We see her mother yearning for a more conventional life, while her father remains firmly rooted in his beliefs and their isolated existence on the mountain.
It's a classic struggle between tradition and individual desires. And it's particularly poignant because you sense that Tara's mother feels trapped, unable to fully embrace either world.
Chapter 15, No More a Child, marks a turning point as her father's paranoia escalates. He starts hoarding supplies in a big way, and we see a shift in his personality.
He becomes even more controlling and unpredictable. And Westover subtly introduces the possibility that he might be struggling with undiagnosed bipolar disorder.
It's a fascinating layer to the story because it makes you reevaluate his behavior through a different lens. Mental health, especially within a family system, can have such a profound impact on everyone involved.
And it raises questions about how we interpret and understand the actions of those around us.
Then we arrive at Chapter 16, Disloyal Man, Disobedient Heaven, where a pivotal event occurs, the family car accident.
It's a harrowing scene, vividly described. Tara wakes up as the car hits a utility pole and you feel the force of the impact. This accident exposes her father's recklessness and the family's vulnerability in a way that will have lasting consequences.
And it sets the stage for even more dramatic changes to come in Tara's life as she begins to question everything she's ever known.
Absolutely. It's like the car accident becomes this symbolic breaking point, forcing her to confront the reality of her situation and the limitations of her family's worldview.
Part 2 of Educated picks up with a significant turning point. Tara's brother Tyler decides to go to college.
This decision is a catalyst for Tara. Tyler becomes the symbol of a world beyond the mountain, a world of education and opportunity that she now craves for herself.
And we see her start to educate herself in secret, devouring books on religion and history, her thirst for knowledge growing stronger with each page.
It's a beautiful testament to the human desire to learn and grow, even in the most challenging of circumstances.
As she pursues knowledge, she's also confronted with the harsh realities of the junkyard. She suffers a series of injuries, including a terrifying incident where she's nearly crushed by scrap metal.
These incidents highlight the danger. She's constantly exposed to danger that her father seems to dismiss or even justify as part of their way of life.
And then there's the escalating abuse from her brother Sean.
Sean becomes a terrifying figure in Tara's life. He's controlling, manipulative, and prone to violent outbursts.
There's a particularly disturbing scene where he chokes her demanding an apology for something as trivial as spilling water.
This incident, along with countless other instances of verbal and emotional abuse, creates this suffocating atmosphere of fear and tension within the family.
And it highlights the complexity of Tara's situation.
Hmm.
She's yearning for knowledge and a better life, but she's also trapped in a cycle of abuse and fear.
Exactly. Her story is a powerful reminder that the decision to leave an abusive situation is never easy, especially when it involves family.
And it's her journey toward breaking free from this cycle that really drives the heart of Educated.
It's a testament to her resilience and her unwavering belief in the power of education to transform lives.
One of the most remarkable aspects of Tara's journey is how she manages to achieve academic success despite her unconventional upbringing.
It's incredible. She takes the ACT exam and scores high enough to get accepted into Brigham Young University. It's a huge step for her, a chance to finally experience the world beyond Buck's Peak.
It's like a door has opened to a whole new world of possibilities, and she seizes that opportunity with everything she has.
But that doesn't mean it's an easy transition. In part 3 of Educated, we see Tara struggling to adapt to college life.
She faces culture shock, academic challenges, and the constant pull of her past.
One of the most significant challenges she faces is confronting the truth about Ruby Ridge. She learns that her father's version of events was heavily distorted, and this realization shakes the very foundation of her beliefs.
It's a pivotal moment because it forces her to question everything she's ever been taught, and it leads her down a path of critical thinking and self-discovery.
This is where her education truly begins to transform her. She's no longer simply absorbing information, but actively engaging with it, questioning assumptions, and forming her own opinions.
It's inspiring to see her evolve from a shy, sheltered girl to a confident young woman who's capable of challenging ideas and standing up for what she believes in.
And as she grows intellectually, her relationships with her family become even more strained. She tries to connect with them to explain her new perspectives, but it often leads to conflict and misunderstanding.
She's caught in this heartbreaking tug of war between her desire for independence and her love for her family.
And it highlights the difficult choices we sometimes have to make when our personal growth clashes with the expectations of those we love.
It's a theme that resonates deeply with many readers, especially those who have navigated their own journeys of self-discovery and the complexities of family relationships.
Exactly. And it's just one of the many reasons why Educated has become such a powerful and enduring memoir.
Now, as we delve further into Tara's journey at BYU and beyond, we'll see how she grapples with these challenges, her experiences highlighting the transformative power of education, not just in an academic sense, but in shaping one's identity and understanding of the world.
It's a reminder that education can be a powerful tool for liberation, for breaking free from limiting beliefs and creating a life that is truly your own. We'll be back after a short break to continue our exploration of Tara's remarkable journey. Welcome back to Librarian Oasis. As Tara embarks on this new chapter at BYU, she encounters a world that's both exhilarating and disorienting. It's like she stepped onto another planet.
The culture shock is palpable.
Oh yeah. She's surrounded by people who have had completely different experiences, who take for granted things she's never even encountered before.
Like that funny anecdote about her reaction to carpeted floors and manicured lawns.
Right. She remembers her grandfather saying about Grandma's pristine carpet, that carpet can stay so white only because he never did any real work.
It speaks volumes about the clash of values and perceptions between the world she comes from and the world she's now entering.
Yeah. Her family takes pride in honest dirt, the evidence of hard work and self-sufficiency. This new world, with its emphasis on appearances, feels almost alien to her.
And while she's navigating this new social landscape, her thirst for knowledge continues to grow. But instead of diving into traditional academic subjects, she finds herself drawn to religious studies.
She immerses herself in the Book of Mormon, the New Testament, even her father's collection of Mormon prophet writings.
It's fascinating because it shows how her early education, limited as it was, still shapes her intellectual pursuits.
Yeah. It's like she's trying to reconcile her newfound knowledge with the belief system she was raised in. She's searching for answers, but within a framework that's already deeply ingrained in her.
And even as she's grappling with these profound questions, she's still facing the dangers of the junkyard back home. There's that terrifying scene where a spike of iron pierces her leg and she's almost crushed by a load of scrap metal.
It's a stark reminder that her journey isn't just about intellectual growth, it's also about physical survival. She's constantly navigating a hazardous environment, her safety often taking a backseat to her father's work.
It makes you question the limits of self-reliance. At what point does the risk outweigh the reward? When does a parent's responsibility to protect their children supersede their commitment to their own beliefs?
Then there's Luke's horrific accident where he sets his leg on fire while working with gasoline.
It's a gut-wrenching scene.
And instead of seeking medical attention, they rely on their mother's herbal remedies, which, despite her best efforts, can't alleviate the immense pain Luke endures.
It raises serious questions about the potential consequences of rejecting conventional medicine, even in life-or-death situations.
And later in the book, Tara learns that there are conflicting accounts of this incident, which adds another layer of complexity. It makes you realize that memory itself can be unreliable, subject to individual interpretation and the passage of time.
It's a reminder that even within a family, there can be multiple versions of the truth, and that our understanding of the past is constantly evolving.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to consider how our own biases and experiences shape the way we remember and interpret events.
A pivotal moment in Tara's journey occurs when she starts working for Mary, a woman in town who exposes her to a world beyond Buck's Peak.
Mary encourages Tara to step outside her comfort zone, to join a dance class, and even sing in the church choir. It's through these experiences that she begins to discover a sense of community and belonging that she's never known before.
And there's this beautiful moment where she draws strength from the memory of listening to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir with Tyler. She remembers the feeling of being transported by their voices, the sense of unity and shared experience.
It's a testament to the power of music to connect us even across vast differences in background and belief. And it shows how even in isolation, we can find inspiration and a sense of belonging through art.
What's surprising is that her father, despite his general disapproval of anything worldly, actually supports her singing.
He even drives her to rehearsals and performances, beaming with pride when she receives praise.
It's a glimpse of a softer side of him, a reminder that even the most rigid belief systems can be challenged by a child's talent and a parent's love.
But his acceptance has limits. When Tara starts acting in plays, he threatens to pull her out, fearing she's being corrupted by the outside world. Yet he always shows up for opening night, sitting in the front row.
It's that classic push and pull dynamic that we see throughout the book. He wants to protect her from what he sees as dangerous influences, but he also can't deny her passion and her obvious talent.
It's at the Worm Creek Opera House that Tara meets Charles, a boy from the outside world who will play a significant role in her journey.
Their initial interactions are a bit awkward. Tara feels out of place among these normal kids. But Charles's persistence, his genuine interest in her, slowly chips away at her defenses.
There's this telling moment where Tara, fearing that Charles might discover her family's hidden supplies and survivalist preparations, realizes that the rifle her father keeps is meant to protect them not just from the government, but from anyone who might threaten their way of life.
It highlights the inherent insularity of their worldview. They see the outside world as a source of danger, something to be feared and guarded against.
And this fear of the outside world is amplified by her father's obsession with Y2K.
He's convinced that the world is about to end, that society will collapse, and that only those who are prepared will survive. They stockpile even more supplies, watching the clock tick down to midnight on New Year's Eve, waiting for the apocalypse.
And when the world doesn't end, when life goes on as normal, it's almost anticlimactic. But their father's paranoia lingers, shaping their perception of reality long after the threat has passed.
It's a powerful example of how strongly held beliefs can distort our understanding of the world, even in the face of contradictory evidence.
As Tara gets older, the abuse from her brother Sean escalates, becoming a constant source of fear and trauma.
His behavior becomes increasingly erratic and violent. He lashes out at family members, including Tara, for the smallest perceived transgressions.
One particularly disturbing incident involves him choking Tara, demanding she apologize for spilling water on him.
It's a terrifying display of his power and control over her. And it highlights the insidious nature of domestic abuse, how it can erode a person's sense of safety and self-worth.
Tara is torn between her desire to escape this toxic environment and her loyalty to her family.
It's a struggle that many people who have experienced abuse can relate to. Leaving is never easy, especially when it involves severing ties with those you love.
And this internal conflict, this battle between wanting to belong and needing to protect herself, is at the heart of Tara's journey in Educated.
Her story reminds us that breaking free from abusive situations often requires immense courage and resilience. and it highlights the importance of seeking support and finding a path towards healing and self-discovery.
Tara's story takes a significant turn when she decides to take the ACT exam, a standardized test required for college admission.
It's a bold move. She has to study in secret, hiding her books from her father, who views formal education with suspicion.
And the fact that she excels on the exam despite her lack of traditional schooling is a testament to her intelligence and determination.
It's a turning point because it opens up a world of possibilities for her. She's accepted into Brigham Young University, a major step towards achieving her dream of a life beyond Buck's Peak.
But as she prepares to leave for college, she's faced with an agonizing decision. Will she stay loyal to her family and their way of life, or will she choose her own path, even if it means leaving everything she's ever known behind?
It's a decision that will have profound consequences, not just for Tara, but for her entire family. And it sets the stage for the next chapter of her remarkable journey.
Tara's decision to attend BYU marks a major turning point in educated matter. It's like she's crossing a threshold into a whole new world.
Yeah, it's a world that challenges her beliefs, exposes her to new perspectives, and ultimately forces her to confront the limitations of her upbringing.
And it's not an easy transition. She faces a lot of obstacles, both internal and external. Right.
One of the biggest challenges she faces is the culture shock. She's surrounded by people who come from vastly different backgrounds, who have a completely different understanding of the world.
It's like she's speaking a different language, even though everyone's speaking English. The social norms, the expectations, even the way people dress and interact are all foreign to her.
Right. And academically, she's playing catch-up. She has gaps in her knowledge, having missed out on years of formal education. She struggles with subjects like algebra and history subjects that most of her classmates take for granted.
But what's remarkable is that she doesn't give up.
Right.
She's determined to succeed, driven by this incredible thirst for knowledge.
And she finds mentors along the way who recognize her potential and encourage her to push beyond her comfort zone.
There's this pivotal moment where she's taking a Western civilization class, and it dawns on her that history isn't just about memorizing dates and battles. It's about understanding the complexities of the past, the different perspectives, the human stories that shape events. It's like a light bulb goes off in her mind. She realizes that there's so much more to learning than she ever imagined.
And this realization fuels her academic growth. She starts to excel in her classes, her confidence builds, and she begins to find her own voice.
But as she's embracing this new world of knowledge, she's also forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about her past.
Right. One of the most significant revelations comes when she discovers the truth about Ruby Ridge, the event that had fueled so much of her family's paranoia.
She learns that her father's version of events, the story that has shaped her entire worldview, was deeply distorted.
It's a devastating realization. It shakes her to her core, forcing her to question everything she's ever believed.
And it leads her to question her father's sanity. She starts to see his extreme beliefs, his paranoia, and his controlling behavior in a new light.
This realization is a turning point in her journey.
Yeah.
It marks the beginning of her separation from her family, both physically and emotionally.
She realizes that she can no longer blindly accept their version of reality. She has to find her own truth, even if it means challenging everything she's ever known.
And this process of questioning and challenging is what ultimately leads her to Cambridge University.
Her acceptance into Cambridge is a huge accomplishment. It's a testament to her intellectual abilities, her resilience, and her unwavering determination.
At Cambridge, she's immersed in a world of intellectual rigor and academic excellence.
She thrives in this environment, surrounded by brilliant minds and engaging in stimulating discussions.
She presents her research at conferences, challenges established theories, and earns the respect of her peers.
It's a far cry from the isolated world of Buck's Peak. She's come so far, both intellectually and personally.
But even as she achieves academic success, she can't escape the shadow of her past.
She continues to struggle with the trauma of her upbringing, experiencing panic attacks, flashbacks, and a deep sense of guilt for leaving her family behind.
She attempts to reconcile with Sean, her abusive brother, hoping to find some kind of resolution.
But their confrontation only deepens the divide between them. Sean refuses to acknowledge the pain he's caused, and Tara realizes that she can't force him to change.
This realization is heartbreaking, but it's also liberating.
Yeah.
She understands that she can't be responsible for his choices, and she can't let his actions define her.
It's a difficult but necessary step in her healing process. She's learning to set boundaries and to prioritize her own well-being.
And ultimately, she comes to terms with the fact that she can love her family without condoning their behavior.
It's a powerful message that resonates with many readers who have experienced similar challenges in their own lives.
Educated is a testament to the transformative power of education, not just in the traditional sense, but as a journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
Tara's story reminds us that we all have the capacity to learn to grow and to break free from limiting beliefs.
It's a story about the importance of critical thinking, the courage to question authority, and the resilience of the human spirit.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a book that will challenge you, inspire you, and stay with you long after you finish reading it.
And if this deep dive has left you wanting more, we encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and embark on your own journey through Tara's extraordinary life.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Educated.
It's been a pleasure exploring this incredible story with you, and as always, happy reading.